What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today we're going to talk to you about NIO. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down what's moving it, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So NIO is up 4.98%, 427 the low, 445 the high. So it is bouncing off of that key support level once again, so insinuating that it wants to move higher. There isn't really all that much coming from NIO to really justify this. Rather, it's just piggybacking off of just the Chinese hype, and I think Alibaba is leading the charge. So DeepSeek kind of laid the foundation for that, and then Alibaba and a couple others are just pushing higher and dragging the rest of the Chinese EVs or Chinese stocks in general up with them. I don't think anyone's really complaining, but once again, I think even on a technical standpoint, it was really showing signs that it wanted to move higher. Today, you do have a lot of volume, so 36.5 million shares being traded, 39.3 is the average. No data on a macro standpoint coming from China. There was GDP that came out earlier today from the States, a little bit lower than the forecast, but again, I think indirectly the market's seeing that as a good opportunity for a rate cut. But no news associated to NIO, no SEC filings. I guess registration numbers as well are just being omitted this week, so it is what it is. Despite all of this though, you do have shorts still trying to really bring it down. So right now they are increasing 424,000 shares, 11.81% of the free float is being shorted. That does work out to be 157 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average 3.21, and then utilization is 93.93. DTC 3.19, and then through IBKR there's roughly around 300,000 shares available to be shorted. So somewhat limited supply. So again, that's kind of a good thing, if that makes sense. So it did recently drop significantly. So roughly around 2.5 to 3,000, or 2.5 million to roughly around 300,000. And so that does mean that a big entity that was either lending them out or whatever, either sold or they turned off their lending. So regardless, I think that's kind of maybe a positive thing for NIO, because you don't need that type of buying where entities are just lending out your shares. That's just very damaging behind the scenes. At the same time, you see a lot of people bringing up the latest in 13Fs. In my opinion, I don't think it's anything crazy. As I've mentioned, I think as a overall, just institutions have been returning some shares. And all this on a side note did occur during Q4, so it's not new information, but I guess if you want to take it for face value, there was some purchasing going on. So BlackRock increasing their position, IMC, I see this one being brought up quite a lot on social media about these two entities, and same goes for a couple others as well. But nonetheless, I think over the next couple of quarters, it is going to be either make or break for NIO. It's either going to really push and go up to roughly around that $6 range, or just fully break down. Consensus wise, over like the last couple of years, Wall Street has just massively overlooked NIO. So like I said, I think 2025 is going to be a very big year for NIO, either a full-on breakdown, or it's either going to be setting the trajectory for it to kind of move higher. But shorts doing their thing as per usual, increasing. So let me know your viewpoint on that. Moving over to options, kind of low volume based on this, so it doesn't really match with the level of volume that the common stock is getting, but 3.26 million in calls, 638,000 in puts. 55% of all the options being done today are optimistic in nature. So you have a lot of these abnormal scenarios in the past when shorts have increased. Usually that's rather damning on NIO, but you have a lot of bullish data points starting to kind of pop out, one being options. Even though, again, the dollar value isn't necessarily there, over the last 2 days, the volume has dropped, but 3.9 right now, 2.6 yesterday, 5.4 the day prior. But even looking at the put/call ratio, this column right here, definitely insinuates that there is a lot more upside with NIO. But of the call options that are being purchased, you do see a consensus for it to be above 450 this week, and now you're seeing that resurge of optimism for it to be up $5 over the pretty much the next couple of weeks. Random pockets for it to be above 6 for March, March 21st, 2025, and then a couple pockets for it to be above like 10, and that is for April and May of 2025. So like I said, I think there is a lot of optimism for NIO, and it's throughout 2025. The bears on the flip side, they are anticipating for it to be, there's not really much going on, for it to be sub 450, and then you have this pocket right here for it to be sub $3 for that same time period for April 17th, 2025. So what's your viewpoint? Do you think $3 is realistic, or do you think it's going to be going to 10? What's your thoughts on that? So far, only one transaction on the secondary market above $100,000 being done. It was for $230,000, but still, it goes to show how powerful algorithmic trading truly is. Right now with it at $4.43, trading between this pivot and this S1. So 425 is that key support now. And so ultimately, like 2 weeks ago, this S2, so that $4 range, was tested like numerous times, all holding up. And so I think right now, this 425 is that new strong support. So essentially, as long as NIO doesn't put out something negative as far as PR, it looks as though it wants to continue this good momentum higher. So the next target is going to be $4.67. But there's a couple of other ones that I do want to bring up. So going to the actual chart itself. So with it right now, $4 and change. $4.47 is going to be that 50-day moving average, and it did bounce off of that general area. I believe that was the high for today. So the high for today, 445. So it's getting very close to that. So right now, that 50-day moving average at 447, if it does get above that and closes above that for 2 consecutive trading days, this is where, in theory and historically, you do have a very nice run. So I think maybe a lot of optimism is stemming from that, and just the fact that it is very, very discounted. But a couple other points to watch for: you do have that 100 and 200-day moving averages at 470 and then $5, and then that super trend indicator at 471. So like I've stated, I think it does go through these bursts higher. In the past, it has failed to get above this yellow line right here, so that 50-day moving average. So most likely tomorrow, or even later today, in that hour and a bit left, it might test that 50-day moving average. So just watch for that very, very closely. So if it does kind of start to move higher, then yeah, I think you can definitely see a very nice burst out. So what is your viewpoint? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Are you buying NIO right now? Are you selling? What's your general thoughts? And have you been dabbling with options? I know I bring this up every single video, and majority of people don't actually do options. It's just too daunting to kind of look at a lot of these numbers, and it's very confusing. But if you ever want a tutorial, I can definitely go over some very basic stuff, what call options are, puts, like the variations of them and different strategies that you can do. If you're curious, I can definitely do that, but I really recommend a lot of people researching them because it can be very profitable, even outside of NIO. So let me know your thoughts. One final thing though, pop over to my Patreon. I give buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point, so definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look with all that. Appreciate all of you watching.